Okay, we are back at it. It's been, I don't know, a long time, probably 3 months, 4 months. I have long hair now. I look 5 years older. Anyway, it's been a while. Civic is back on the lift. I have done so many things to it. I got these new Koenig Hypergrams, they're 8-inch wide rim on a 205 wheel. So a lot more tread, a lot more traction. They're a softer compound, more of a track, all-season performance tire. Let's see, what else did I do? I got locking lug nuts, pretty standard. I got a new shift boot and shift knob, and I actually bought a 2002 Acura RSX. I've been saving up a lot of money, and kind of like that car, I went on Copart, saw this one. Well, after bidding on around, I think 2 other cars, I paid, after all the fees, I think $4,000, and got me a Type S. What's really cool about these cars, and the reason I bought it, is they came with the K20A2. So the K20A2, compared to other K-Series engines, if I were to use them for a swap, is I can use the harness, I can use pretty much all of the stock components on this engine. The ECU also, and it has a 6-speed manual transmission, no LSD, which kind of sucks, but that's, whatever. I'm not looking for stupid good track times or anything. So, benefit of buying a K20A2 is from the factory, it makes 200 horsepower, and it revs to 8,200 RPM, I believe, stock tune and everything, which is better than the economy K20 or K24s, which make 160, And K20A2s, they have stronger rods. They have no counterweights in their oil pumps, which let them rev higher. And obviously 6-speed. And the harness and everything just plugs and plays with a conversion harness. Go onto my stock body harness on the Civic. So everything is plug and play. So back to the RSX. I bought this thing probably 2-3 weeks ago. Went up to Puyallup, Washington. Picked it up from a yard. Full interior, really nice car. It had 140,000 miles on it. We pulled the motor, and I listed it on Marketplace. And what's really cool is it's a 3-owner car before me. I'll tell you the whole story, I guess. So, first people that bought it from the factory were an older couple. I'm guessing they drove it for probably 100 to 120,000 miles. And they sold it probably a few years ago, actually, not that long ago. So, the second owner actually messaged me on Marketplace asking if the roof had sparkly paint, which it actually does. And I was like, yeah, it has sparkly paint. It's like, and he was like, oh my God, that is my car. That's crazy. I owned that thing around 8 months ago, and I only drove it like 200 miles. It was a really weird coincidence. Like 10 minutes before the second owner messaged me, the third owner messaged me. The guy that actually wrecked the car. So he told me the whole story. He was up on a mountain pass somewhere and came into a corner a little hot and flew off the road and smacked into a tree. Sorry, the lighting is very good. I got my hood off over here. But hit a tree, flew off the road, buckled the roof in, broke the windshield, all the glass. The driver door is screwed, broke a tie rod, and yeah. But airbags didn't deploy, and it still has a clean title. So that guy, he was talking to me. He owned the car for 8 months, I believe. So that's probably a few thousand miles. And like most of the miles of this car are old people driving it, you know, as just a luxury coupe in the early 2000s, which is really awesome to hear. So this motor should be rock solid. 140,000 miles, mostly babied, maybe a little bit of beating from younger kids later on, the two owners. So when we got the car, I wanted to go drive it. So we aired up this tire, which has a slow leak. I think there's dirt in the bead or something. And the tire auto snapped. So we just freaking welded a pipe on there, slid it on. And we went and drove it. I had to crawl through the interior across the passenger side because the driver door didn't open. And we went and drove it. Drove great. I mean, the steering wheel was crooked, you know, but drove great, shifted all 6 gears, felt smooth. After all that, pulled the motor. I've been selling parts off it to try to make my $4,000 back, try to get, you know, at least $2,000. Moving on from the K all this, we have engine mounts from 1320. I don't know if they're just some relabeled China. They're billet, they're solid mounts, they're pretty nice. They just come with some bracketry. Okay, so now it's time to pull the stock motor up. The piece of junk D16Y7, non-VTEC, 1.6 liter, single overhead cam, just no horsepower, probably 106 horsepower versus our beautiful, ready to go K20A2 over there. Make 200 horsepower, and K20s respond really well to boost, just in case I want to do something in the future, you know, maybe street car, track car. This is going to be my fun car now and my daily driver. Okay, so stock suspension, I already got this axle out. Everything should be disconnected from the motor besides mounts. Yeah, I've been just pulling all this. We have a EG and DC Integra subframe, which I recently bought from Pick and Pull. My dad and one of my buddies, we went down there, pulled it out. Sorry, it's all the way back in the freaking container. I'll show you. But we got lower control arms and the EG DC subframe, which is thinner. So I think you can run your header out the back in between it instead of, you know, under the oil pan like on a normal D series. So there's the subframe. I got a power steering rack, which I should be able to convert all the lines off the pump and be able to get power steering in my car. That'd be freaking awesome if I can get it to work. It's a 3-port. Apparently you can only use 2 ports, but I'm pretty sure you can just plug one of them off and it works fine. So yeah, there's our subframe. If you know what an EK subframe is, I'll probably go back and look at it in a second, but it is so much thinner. So it gives you a bunch of room on the back of the subframe, I'm pretty sure. And then you can run your header down and under the body to where the trans tunnel is. That's made for exhaust. So we'll go back in there. Freaking muddy out today. It's kind of weird. Washington is known for rain, but in the summer we don't get that much, honestly. But this is the first day it's rained in probably 2 months. And since I'm pulling the motor on my Honda, I gotta fetch this thing out of retirement. My T100, bum stock, just lifted a little bit and some front and rear bumpers. But literally, like, second revolution, it popped right off and started. Barely even misfired for a few seconds while the injectors cleared back out from that rotten old fuel. Since I put, you know, the lowest octane fuel I can in there. Economy. Yeah, if you look at this subframe, it's a lot bigger, and the rack and pinion is pinched in there with some plates, and it just gives you a lot more room. I'm pretty sure the header just runs out the back here, and there is just not a lot of room. I got my motor plugged up. I got the wiring all in a glove with a zip tie on it, nice and tight. I got most of the plugs all covered up, all the ports, all the, the freaking, all the stuff. I pulled my header off, and there's quite a bit of buildup in here. I'm kind of surprised, but it's probably fine. Yeah, I'm gonna grab this pallet with the forklift, and I have some like gunk engine degreaser. I'm just gonna hose this thing down, let it sit for a few minutes, and while I'm waiting, I'll go grab the pressure washer, and we'll go hose it off. There's a deer. Hey, bud.
So stained, it's not really going to get beautiful, Yeah.
All right. D-Series motor. Don't sound so enthusiastic. It's because it's a D-Series. K-Swap EK Civic. Jesse just got the EG subframe and rack and pinion installed. And he's in there hooking the steering linkage up so that we can roll this thing out and acid wash this engine bay. So we'll get the engine bay cleaned up, and we'll get it back on the lift and start stabbing that engine in there. You done in there?
No.
Why?
I don't know how to get the shaft on
Is that Acura? I thought this was a Honda. I guess it's the same thing. There's the old EK subframe. The Powerhouse D15 for sale. So, got our engine bay pretty clean. We got our subframe in there. We're gonna have power steering, so that'll be nice. We used a bit of this acid wash stuff to kind of help break down all the dirt, but we got it decently clean. I mean, it's not gonna be a show car. I'm still running stock wiring harness, so it's gonna be, a little bit ugly, but should be pretty nice. Engine bay is nice and clean. Goodbye, D-Series.
Right in the scrap bin or what?
No, it's worth a few $100.
I think like a log splitter or something out of it. Honda part.
Back to the newer, cooler, better motor. We're gonna zip some mounts on this thing. We got them from 1320. Okay, it's in. The K20 is in the Civic, and it looks pretty freaking awesome. I've been sitting here smiling at it for 2 hours. I haven't even put any of my tools away. I've been just sitting here staring at it. But we got our nice 1320 billet mounts. Nice billet aluminum. They actually lined up literally perfectly, no problems. All the brackets, I need to get the rear one in there at some point, but that'll probably be tomorrow. I gotta clean up and then go somewhere, do some errands. Anyway, looks great. We might hit power steering on the hood, so we might need to like cut the skeleton, or oh boy, it's leaking. Might need to cut the skeleton or find some way to clearance that. We are in the upper holes on the EK mounts, which is supposed to clear for a K20. I'm gonna do some more research tonight on what can go where. But this will cover, I kind of like it. It looks stock, so I'll probably cut this plastic off that kind of matched the stock airbox. But what's kind of cool is you could totally run the stock airbox for the RSX. I still have it, but I probably won't run. I'll do some like short little mushroom filter or whatever the hell, or maybe down here. I see people run them down there all the time, but it'll probably get wet since we're Pacific Northwest, you know. But yeah, it looks freaking awesome. I'm really happy with how everything is lined up, and within the next week or so, for you guys, it'll be like a split-second transition, but in around a week, I'll have all my parts that I ordered. I got a header, I got a conversion harness, I got a Jackspania fuel system convert, which has all the AN lines, literally should just bolt right up. I got a RSX stock shifter bracket to convert it for this car. I got to cut the tunnel out. I still need to pull shifter cables out of the RSX over there, number 5. What else did I order? I ordered, that's probably all of it, honestly. I could look, but yeah, it's in there. Looks great. I'm really happy. I have the biggest smile on my face. And yeah. I just love how this matches too. I'm like totally nerding out, but it looks factory. Anyway, continuing on. I'm gonna, well, I already did, but we took the AC condenser off, the pulley on there, and I'm pretty sure there's a stock part number you can get to just run power steering, no AC. So I'm gonna be doing that because this is a non-AC car, and as you can see, there's no little studs down there or tubes for the AC to go into the dash, which I'm assuming I'd have to rip the whole dash out, get new lines, find all the parts, all the missing parts if I don't find anything. Gotta get a condenser, gotta get that, I gotta run all the lines, find all the stock piping. It'd probably be a nightmare since this thing is a CX, the base model, the lowest, bottom of the barrel, turd mobile. And I want to show you guys real quick. I got a RSX steering wheel from that car. I think it looked pretty nice. At first I was like, oh man, too bad the interior is black. It's going to look really weird in my gray interior if I try to steal the wheel. But I mean, honestly, isn't that bad? Since I have so much black like trim in here. like on the dash and the climate control, the cup holders. Like there's so much black in the interior, I think it looks fine. But it's nice leather, you know. Anyway, progress. So we ended up missing a few bushings, mainly that guy and these two built-in ones that go into these caps that kind of press up in there. Anyway, we were missing those. I had to go down to Washougal. Pretty nice guy I met. He was part of Integra. EG subframes and Integra subframes are the same. I thought this one wasn't going to fit, but it was just really tight. It ended up going on there pretty well. I got the steering hooked up. I had to unbolt the whole rack and pinion and kind of pull it out and then push it back in and line all the shafts up. So now everything should be hooked up. I just have one more bolt on top of the rack and pinion. We got the rear motor mounted. It took us a minute. We ended up needing to put a point on one of these bolts and kind of just tapping it in with a hammer. Well, we ran it in with a gun. We didn't tap it with a hammer. Try to save some of the threads. But yeah, this sucker gave us some struggles. But everything is in. And once I get this last bolt in the rack, we should have steering. Not power steering, but steering. The motor should be mounted. I hooked up the clutch line and got it bled, me and my dad and I. We already have brakes. Duh. And then I have parts coming in the mail within a few days. Should be like conversion harness and fuel system and header. And I need to buy a immobilizer to plug into the conversion harness for it to all work. But after that, this little hatchback should be pretty close to being done. I need to do cooling system stuff also, and put the battery back in and figure out the shifter stuff, which I started messing with. I had it in backwards, so I thought it was the wrong part, but it is the right part. I had this thing in backwards, so the other mount was going to be like way up here when it's supposed to be back here. So now I just need to cut out the floor, put that plate in there, silicone, and bolt it in. I have to drill 2 holes up here, but yeah. Yep, that should be pretty good. Take a look at this exhaust. I thought this was hilarious. Oh, this was the stock D series stuff. You probably can't see it very well. There you go. It is just beautiful. Like, I don't even know how you get it that beautiful. It's immaculate. Anyway, progress once again. Continuing on with the Civic, I have gotten my header in the mail. I got it from BullBoost Performance. They're kind of a new company I've never heard of. Anyway, bought it from them. I think it's just like a China remanufactured something. Anyway, got it on there. It was a little tight. I had to Dremel out these 2 holes on the header itself. It went on there pretty tight. The bolt towards me down low here, it went on there a bit tight. I didn't like how it felt, but it eventually went all the way in and tightened up, so that made me feel a little better. I got it torqued down to 33 foot-pounds, which I heard was the torque spec. Kind of worked my way out from the middle, and that's pretty big, pretty nice header. We got it going to a 4-to-1 collector here. They say this weird kind of expansion and then contraction here is for performance, to make a scavenging effect, which I'm not some aerodynamic engineer or anything, but I don't know what the hell that means. Anyway, continuing on, we got our RSX shifter in. I already covered it all up, but I might be able to get a picture or something. But we got it in there. We got it all stock looking. It's a little plate that kind of comes up in there. Sandwiches all of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then all the way over reverse. And what's really cool about the shifter is its stock placement. It looks stock, but it's nice, you know, short throw like the RSX shifter. And I was able to use the stock RSX cables as well. So that literally just went right in. I'll get it up on the lift and I'll show you underneath. All right, I just got this thing lifted up. This is the underside of our header. It isn't quite perfect, but I mean, it's gonna be freaking impossible to line that up from factory. So we'll have to bend it around a little bit, mess with it, get it to go into that collector. Here's the shifter. As you can see, it's kind of just a little plate that bolts up in there. You cut the top of your tunnel out, and then you just drill 2 holes right here. And this little bracket goes on the stock, forget what it's for, but there's a little bracket up here, it drops down in here. And you just bolt it up, and then it lines up the holes right here. You mark them, you drill them, cut it out, do a little bit of trimming, bolt it up in there, and now what I'm gonna do is seam seal all around here, just so water isn't coming up in and making everything disgusting. And it probably helps with noise too. Could be wind coming up through all these holes, whatever. And what I'm interested to see is how I'm gonna try to run a 3-inch eBay kit, eBay exhaust kit. And this being up in here, I don't know how low everything's gonna be, but this might make it a little more challenging. We'll have to see. And I might even hook up the stock exhaust, even though it's really freaking tiny. Well, I'll probably just end up buying a kit from eBay for like, I think they're 160 bucks for some cheap tubing, which, I mean, you can't beat that price. It's the best deal. Maybe get an aftermarket muffler or one from the RSX I might steal. Might be too big, I don't know. I'll figure it all out later when this thing actually runs. Probably in around an hour here, my conversion harness is going to show up. So that should make quite a few things work, like the OBD2 port, other things like that. But yeah, more and more progress. We kind of time skipped forward like 3 months. I forgot to record everything, but car's done. I've been daily driving it for a while. Been having a lot of fun. But we got that eBay exhaust finally all done. I know we ended off on that and kind of the shifter stuff. It was really loud. It sounded like a trumpet, you know, VQ 350Z trumpet at like 4,000. And I live in the hills, so I have to pull up a bunch of hills at 4,000. And I hated it. Stop! What are you even cutting? God! Anyway, everything's done. You know, radiator all plumbed in. This upper hose from Hybrid Racing worked, and we had to cut it up on the bottom one because there's not a lot of people running these full-size RSX radiators. A lot of people do like the Speed Factory tucked one or half size or whatever. Intake, everything's plumbed, obviously. Heater hoses, header. Ended up getting a new rack because the 3-port didn't work. I had to do a Integra rack, which is 2-port. Overflow mounted, power steering reservoir mounted. Like I was saying earlier, I got a new muffler because the one I had was really loud. This one's like a twin loop, so it goes through the muffler like twice. Sounds way better than the fart can I had on there. And I've been daily driving it. I haven't really had any problems other than lately I'm pretty sure the check valve on the fuel pump went bad, and I've been needing to sit there and cycle the key like 5 times before the car would start, and I wouldn't have any fuel pressure in the engine bay. So I think it's been draining back. So as an early birthday present, my dad bought me a Walbro 255 from Speed Factory. They got the whole kit, you know, the sock and everything, all the mounting. And that's just a good supporting mod if I end up doing anything. That stock pump was pretty much maxed out for the K20 anyways. So that'll be a good little upgrade. And yeah, that's just what we're gonna do for the end of this video. Alright, got the main cover off behind the back seat. And it looks like we just have 2 little fuel lines, you know, return and feed. And a plug which I already took off, and then I'm assuming this is the sending unit for, you know, the fuel level. And I got some tools, and we're just gonna try it. Pretty sure this requires some sort of specialty tool, and we probably have it, but I'm not really sure what yet, so we're just gonna see what happens. I'm all done with the fuel pump, and I just wanted to kind of give a final overview before I close this video up. Fuel pump kit was from Speed Factory Racing, aka fastest Honda Civic in the world. Yeah, I got that 255 in there. Everything works, despite me trying to break it myself. Yeah, final overview of the build. Since that last video, I got new headlights from eBay, the black kind of accent, like a Type R style. This China carbon fiber little grill piece. These new wheels and tires, they're Koenig Hypergrams. Are really dusty right now because daily driver, and I bought like the cheapest brake pads possible because I didn't think I was going to be doing anything in this. But the Koenig Hypergrams 15 by 8, and these are kind of a stickier tire, a Nitto Neogen, I believe. They're more of a budget performance tire. Here's our motor we swapped in, K20A2 out of a 2002 Acura RSX. PRB engine code, cold air intake. I got these mounts for pretty cheap from $13.20 on eBay. I tried to use as much of the stock RSX parts as possible, so this radiator is RSX. All the intake and accessories are still stock RSX, except I did end up taking the AC compressor off because this car is a CX. Yep, stock RSX reservoir. This one was from the Honda. I just cut this bracket up and welded it down in there. Probably can't see it very well. Welded that up. Fuel pressure regulator. Had to swap the non-returnal system to a return style, which is what my car uses originally. What else? Transmission is just the 02 RSX one, 6-speed with no LSD, sadly. On the interior, I stole the steering wheel out of the RSX because I thought it looked really good, and the one on my car was, base model, 20 years old, which this one's 20 years old, I guess, but this one isn't deteriorating yet. and it's leather, and it's really nice looking. Just a little weighted shift knob, leather shift boot, kind of a Type R ripoff. I got this really cheap heady unit off eBay for like 60 bucks, but it has CarPlay and, you know, Spotify and all that, so I can play stuff while I'm driving. I have a subwoofer in the back. I have hooked up to this knob. That was actually a pretty early mod. I did that before I got all of my wheels and tires and even did the engine swap. It's just a Scar 10-inch, 10 or 12, I think it's a 10. And I literally, the amp I got for it, I traded some guy some Steelies off of that parts car in my last video that you guys saw. And it's a decent Kenwood amp. I forget what size, but it's pretty decent. And it rattles every panel in this car, so it's more than powerful enough. Like, I barely turn it up when I'm just driving around. But, yeah. I still need to, like, legitimately mount my ECU. It's kind of just hiding under the carpet right now. Under here. Wish I had a light. But it's literally just sitting right here, if you can see it all. So every time someone gets in it, I'm like, please don't put your feet right in the middle. You'll crush my computer. And the car will stall out. I stole the Type S badge off of that RSX. And I was thinking about buying a new Civic badge and then doing Civic Type S, which is kind of nerdy. But it would say that this car is Type S swap. But yeah, that's really it for now. Should be getting some suspension parts pretty soon. In the last video you saw, I put on Skunk 2 lowering springs. Still stock struts, but with the lowering springs, it's a little bit too low with the engine swap because the K20 is like 200 pounds heavier than a normal D series. So I'm not really a big fan of that oil pan clearance. And I already have drugged my exhaust on a few speed bumps, which I'm not a fan of. And I mean, I don't think the car would look much different with a few inches in the front and like a few less in the rear. So I'm going to be buying some coilover soon, just saving up money right now. And most likely a camber kit, so I can kind of fix this, which it looks good, and the tread wear isn't too bad. I don't know. I think it'd be nice to have actual camber adjustability and, you know, get it decently aligned so it's not terrible on all the tires are put on it. But yeah, that's going to close it off for now. Thanks to K-Tune for our conversion harness and immobilizer delete. Those parts really helped me out, and those were the parts I didn't want to cheap out on. Hybrid Racing, the only thing I got from them was the radiator hoses, but those came in clutch. All the other radiator hoses I didn't think were going to work, so I bought these, and they literally went right in. K&N for the filter, you know, pretty standard. Jackspania, I wasn't really that big of a fan of their kit. I had to end up making a few custom lines, and I think it's called Big Earl is the brand. It's just a generic AN fuel filter. We had to do some goofy looking loops and stuff down there to make it all fit. But it should be good now. And yeah, the Jackspania fuel pressure regulator. I wouldn't cheap out on this again. I tried to buy the full kit, you know, all the AN lines being the right length and stuff. But we literally had to cut the spring down because we couldn't get enough fuel pressure from the spring in here. Like, come on, man. You shouldn't have to modify a part to make it work with your car, especially something generic as that. Fuel rail and everything's fine, you know. Looks clean, other than it says that on it. Honestly, should have just bought a kit from Hybrid or something. Even though those are really freaking expensive. But, you know, you pay for it in the long run what you don't pay for now. I did all the radiator wiring myself, pretty much everything I wired myself. You know, I tried to loom everything, make it all nice with this fuel temp sensor too. You know, loom everything, get out of the way, heat shielding wherever I can. Here's a relay for the fans. It's literally never gotten over like probably 190, 150 maybe. Midway on the gauge. I don't have an exact number because you know, stock gauge, but it literally never gets above halfway on that gauge. So it stays nice and cool. And it runs freaking amazing. And now I just need to get some engine mounts. This thing will be really good daily. Because with the current engine mounts, they're really stiff. And like all my door panels, my dash, some random thing in the back seat, like everything is just rattle, rattle, rattle. Which I do have a subwoofer, and I do turn the music up so I can't hear all the rattling, which is, you know, standard Honda stuff. But it'd be nice to not have hearing damage after more than a half-hour drive. When this thing had the fart can, I went up, I think, to Olympia or somewhere close, like an hour north, one way. And I was just driving with the window down the whole time. And the gearing in this thing is really off because it has an RSX transmission, right? But the wheels and tires on this car are obviously smaller than an RSX. The RSX has like a 17-inch wheel with a, I believe, 40 sidewall height. And these are 1550s, you know. So the outer diameter is a bit smaller. So that throws off your gearing pretty bad and the speedo. So in 6th gear in overdrive, going 60, I'm at like 3,000 RPM. And that's not even 60 because the wheel sensor is in the transmission. So it thinks it's going 60, but in reality, it's going like, I think I looked it up on GPS one time, like 55. And obviously that's going to multiply with higher speeds. So I'm pretty sure K-Tune sells something to, you know, adjust that. I might buy one of those later on, but still, same thing with everything K-tuned. It's kind of expensive. So it's really not that big of a problem. But, you know, later, maybe. Anyway, that's the Honda, man.